Open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded. It is 6:02 and we're going to start our meeting. Okay, so we just noted that because I was elected to the select board, Scott Hawkins will be stepping back because you cannot have two select board members on here. And then first thing would be, do we have minutes from last time?
I think I posted them.
Okay. I didn't check today, sorry, I had 18 things I was doing for Housing Trust and I did not check
It's
that.
okay. I'm pretty sure I posted them. Let me double check. I think I posted them when we left
Awesome.
last week, but
She's good.
but I honestly haven't looked again, so I'm gonna look right now. Minutes, yes, those were posted.
Okay, what was the date on those?
April 23rd.
Okay. All in favor of approving the April 23rd minutes?
I will.
Yes. Okay. All right. Anything that you have from the Aspet Regional Consortium?
We're not meeting until the spring fling,
Okay.
if you will, on June 12th,
Okay.
which I will attend. I don't know if
Awesome.
anyone else has an interest.
I may attend with you.
You do?
If
Okay.
so, we can hook up and drive
Great.
together. It'll depend on if anything else comes up, but probably I can go with you.
That's fine.
We have to pay Assabet Regional Consortium bill, so I have the bill schedule here. All in favor of paying our $760 bill to keep Assabet?
Aye.
Right.
Okay. Right, so. There are only two of us, I'm not gonna post a meeting for that. Okay. Beth, do you have CPA committee? update?
So I did ask, I asked about the possibility of using the CMRPC money, our CMRPC money,
Yeah.
that had been earmarked for Jasifa from the 2024 town meeting article, and they did not see any issue with us using it to pay CMRPC, even if it's not for Jasifa.
Yeah.
To do
I mean,
to
it's
do the type of task
basically
she
ad
would
hoc
have.
what she would have.
Yeah.
So I thought it wouldn't be, but I
Yeah.
never want us to
But
use that money
I
without.
think Tim appreciated being asked.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? So
The CPA committee
Mhm.
said it would be fine to use the money that was allocated by the 2024 warrant article that was specifically for Jasifa's position, but it was worded as you're paying CMRPC. And so we can still use it to pay CMRPC to do work that would otherwise have done by a Jasifa if that person existed.
Okay, thank you.
Are they still looking for another?
No, they are not.
Okay.
But they will do, they have a couple people on staff, so some people chose to just keep them and use them. And then others, we had talked about just doing ad hoc potentially. And one of the reasons I had Beth ask was for an ad hoc, we've been kind of stuck on the down payment program.
Yeah.
And I think we'd all like that to go forward. So if you saw, I sent over an email today from Connor that looked good to me. It looked,
I didn't have a chance to review that.
So the thing, where'd you go, Connor? First time home buyer down payment assistance program is the thing on it. So so they are not suggesting that. It's unclear to me if he is suggesting that Metro West would continue to be the administrator of the program, or if they would, he says we could support Berlin, and I don't know what we're thinking. Are we thinking that we want to give them the entire program?
How I read that was that they would tailor the program that we would then go work with Metro West.
Okay, so when we talk about
That is
required
how I read
documentation from applicants, it's not that they would be reviewing and vetting
No,
that. They would
they
just be
would
helping us
be-
generate the list,
Yes.
which potentially, I mean, I feel like we have a number of these pieces already in place, but we're drafting or reviewing the partnership agreement that MWCD strikes me as the priority. That
Yeah,
seems
but
to
they're
be where
all-
we're stuck.
They're all part and parcel. That's all in that one document,
Right.
really. So,
Move the program, our goal would be to move the program from concept to implementation while giving MWCD a clear path forward if they take on the administrator role. That seems like
that
a
sounded
great
like
plan.
what we were looking for.
Mhm.
So do we need a
Well-
motion? Do we need a vote to take an action
We
on
need
this?
to vote to take action, to continue action on this if everybody is in agreement and is comfortable with that.
It seems like everything that we're looking for, and then they even said even further, help to organize or partner a first-time homebuyer class.
That seemed like super fun, like
Yeah.
to be engaged with them in that way.
Yeah, the only thing is we don't have a whole lot of, we've talked about
True.
this program, like, we don't
Right.
have a whole lot of first-time home buyers here.
That's true.
I mean, I would totally, if I thought we had enough interest in town, I just don't know where we come up with all of these people and having one person. I think you have to do that when you're applying for HUD stuff and you're applying for,
Correct.
but I don't know that we would specifically offer it.
So how would they charge us for these things? Like,
I would assume that's coming up with the scope and what, I don't know what they would charge for that. Like I said, if we had Jasifa, we would be paying her, and I would be trying to have her do this task. I'm not sure she could have, well, we didn't actually trust her, let's be honest, we didn't trust her to do this task, which is why she wasn't doing it. They do have people on staff, I believe, who can do this task.
mhm.
Um,
So is this sort of retroactive, the hours we actually did not get from Jasifa? Will they be applied, or is this all going forward? Or is that just?
We paid a prorated rate for Jasifa, so only through like November.
Right. Now I remember that. Right.
So
So this is fresh.
that's
Mhm.
done, this is fresh.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's another step. It's
Yeah.
something to check out.
I just
to
don't wanna-
At least,
The contract, when we sent it to legal, was a disaster.
yeah.
It was an unmitigated disaster. I didn't even know where to go with it.
So are we gonna get more of that?
Well,
That's my only.
if they are not getting us an adequate product, then we can say that's not, I expect them to come through, this is what they do, so I expect them to come through with a product that, at the end, that we can go forward with and use. And, if we brought it over to legal and they said this is a disaster, I'd go back to CMRPC and say, no.
Okay. I mean, if
We're
we have
not-
that
we are not-
understanding,
we are
because I
not-
don't wanna just,
They will have a scope of work that they have to contractually,
yeah.
they will contractually have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get paid with this, and it will be this specific project with those specific goals in mind. Now, we can see what they come up with for a price, and if folks aren't comfortable with that, we don't need to go forward, but I don't know how, this was the best thing I could come up with for moving it
Right.
forward.
No, I understand. Right, certainly. Did we, were we trying to reach out to Westboro?
that ever? I'm sorry.
So I have called and emailed multiple times. I even spoke to their deputy town administrator. I was so excited. I pinged you right away. Because I was like, I talked to a person and she was like, oh yes, they're lovely.
Because I was gonna go cry.
Here are their direct emails. You know, nothing. Nothing at all. And so I'm like, but also, it isn't like they have a program up and running with Metro West either. So
Yeah.
it could be that they also have a number of other irons in the fire, so this may not be particularly high priority for them.
I got no further with RCAP either. I spoke with someone and they said that's not really what we do, but poke around the website and
Yeah.
sent me a bunch of emails
And I do believe once we get something on paper and coordinated, I do trust Metro West to
do whatever
the
it
thing,
is.
because they have been super in all other regards.
Okay, because
I mean, they
I'd
they
like
have
to
been
see that. but
they have been
my experience hasn't been.
with Metro West has not been.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't
because
had as much, but
every time we have a question, they're prompt about answering it, they're knowledgeable about answering it and getting back to us. I've never had any issues in that regard, so if you have, we need to talk about finding another partner.
no, I mean,
Okay.
the whole experience with just CFA.
Oh, no,
and
that's
then this-
CMRPC,
Oh, I'm
not
sorry.
Metro West. CMRPC, yes, I
know,
understand.
too many
I understand-
organizations.
I
Too many
understand
letters happening. Okay.
Yes, but we need to just hold them to the contract,
Right.
and Connor is aware that they
Yes,
need to
good.
sort of make up some ground. So my expectation would be that they would be very, very eager to do a good job with
Okay.
this because of the Jasifa thing.
Okay. So do you want to continue to work with Connor on this, or do you want somebody to take over this conversation?
It really, if somebody wants to take it, they can, but I don't, it really, I had talked about somebody potentially being chair because I am on the board. I will continue if you want me to, but I want to make it very clear that somebody else can take over, and I would probably prefer it if they did as chair, because I don't like to have concentrated, I think leadership should be distributed, but I also know that there's a lot of work here, and I know that people don't necessarily have the capacity that I do to do it. So if you want to be chair,
Me?
I will happily make you
No,
chair.
thank you.
I
appreciate that, but I was just gonna tell you that I probably am not your-
I'm just
your
thinking
person.
that in order to make this keep going forward, that for now, but, you know, the goal would be to move that on.
So we can come back to the question of who should be chair.
Yep.
Going back, so what do we? You already are working with them on this and have
Yeah.
dealt with and are certainly most knowledgeable about the money piece. What kind of motion do you need from us to be empowered to continue to work on this?
Just make that motion, exactly what you just
I'd like
said.
to make a motion that we authorize Lisa as representing the committee to continue to work with Connor and CMRPC to develop a framework and a contract for this down payment program.
Yes.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I will follow up with Connor and hopefully they'll have something for me to bring back to you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And then that sort of, I mean, those types of things, that's writing one email. That's far different than trying to draft things, and especially legal documents. That's not really my wheelhouse, and I don't think it's anybody on the committee's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that came up at the select board was the Rockwell rents, which is normally it's the time of year where they raise the rents on the affordable units, and that is all approved by HUD, and it's normally a sort of pro forma sort of thing. which we thought it was going to be when we went on there, and then they proceeded to ask to raise, if you remember during COVID, rents were not allowed to be raised in 20 and 21. So they wanted us to allow them to raise the rents on those folks by 10%. I think all of us were, I certainly did say that I was not at all comfortable with that, and if we wanted to reach out, if somebody wanted to reach out to Metro West and ask them how others had dealt with it, that was fine, but I was not remotely comfortable with raising folks who are already in an affordable situation, raising their rents by 10% at one go.
Is this an ask, or
This was
how
this
does
was
this
an
happen?
ask. So every year they're allowed to, they have to go through HUD to raise the rents on the affordable apartments, in any affordable apartments. They are allowed to raise them by X percentage.
Yeah, it's based on the
So-
area median income.
Yeah. So normally it is a pro forma. They ask that amount. The board approves it. You move on.
So the select board is approving their ask, and that's part of the HUD process, is having the town
It's just
government.
part of the, it's just, we
So
reached
are they
out to-
basing the 10% just because they had to stay for a year 4 years ago?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
or do they have real costs like the rest of us? My insurance
that's-
basically doubled, my everything,
Yep.
you know,
And
so
that's fine.
was it substantiated or?
It was simply an ask. My recommendation was that somebody reach out to Metro West and see if there were others who had done this in a certain way, or I wasn't asked to reach out. I don't know whether that has happened, or I can follow up with Kristen, but I didn't feel that we should do anything on that without talking to Metro West first and seeing if that had happened elsewhere and how it was done. Because for me, even if you were going to gradually bring, I don't think jumping 10% in a year, like,
Well, have they had incremental raises in the last 4 years since COVID?
I would,
Have there
I
been,
would
or
assume
is this,
so.
have they been at a stay since COVID?
Oh, I don't think they've been at a stay since COVID, no.
So-
There were like 2 years, I think, in there, and then they started raising them, and they're trying to catch up from the
Well, and then since we've had massive inflation, so.
yeah. But it's on the other side too, the people in those homes have also.
I understand
so,
that.
And this is
but
just
HUD
the
has
people who are
their
in the
recommended.
people. This is just the people who've been there too. The people who would be coming in new will have
Whatever
the normal
the rate
rent.
is.
So it's a very small subset of individuals.
Okay.
It's not like it's a bunch of people.
So what did you all take action on this, or what did
We
you?
said that no, not right now.
No.
That we could reach out to Metro West and see what their recommendation was, but we did indeed say certainly not, like, not knowing beforehand, because I went into that discussion expecting it to be, they asked just.
So they hadn't telegraphed this
They
at all?
hadn't telegraphed this at all.
So, do we have, like,
We had,
if
we
it's
had
only
no,
a
there was
specific
no,
set of people,
no
do we
documentation,
have-
they gave
right.
us nothing, it was a guide.
It would be
up on-
nice to have what specific rents they're talking about, what those rents are at now.
Yeah.
And what 10% really is. And then HUD has a schedule of what they consider market rent, and then we could compare them and see if it makes
But we
any
don't-
sense.
I mean,
If they
we don't-
base Section 8 on it.
We
all.
can make recommendations here, but the select board makes the decision, so,
I'm just saying that might be useful information in making that decision, like, is
Yeah.
this,
I mean,
is
like I
this
said, I
based on
would-
their cost? Is
If
this?
if they want it, they should do that work and present
And
their
present it.
arguments.
I agree,
And-
I agree.
and Metro West, like I said.
Yeah. So
Could tell us.
who owns or manages, like, what is this corporation? Do they have other developments elsewhere?
Like I
'Cause
said,
then
it was, someone came to the meeting
Well-
representing them.
So we know
So
nothing.
So that's good. They can
Yeah.
bring more stuff next time, I guess, and try to convince
Yeah.
you. You just said
I
no.
wanted you to be aware. Well, I just said I personally was not comfortable with doing that without more information.
Yeah.
And
Those are the questions I would
or
ask,
really,
though.
Yeah.
Or really bumping somebody's rent up
Yeah.
by 10% in a year. I can see where you could stagger that, but
An
Yeah.
an extra % this year, an extra % next year.
Right.
To catch up
Yeah.
to the 5% they were down or whatever.
yeah.
But
But like
And
I
it's
said,
only the current tenants.
it's only the
few
current tenants.
people.
Anybody who comes in new is right back at the start again. So it's or right back.
So
at the
if
normal.
I mean, what is their recourse if you just shoot it down
They
as select
can't.
board? They can't.
No, it has to be, any rent increases have to be approved by the select board. Like I said, it's normally pro forma because it's normally just the HUD recommendations.
Yeah.
So like,
And HUD didn't recommend 10%.
no.
What do we know?
I can.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think
I'm just
it would
curious.
be over on the other account. I'm not sure if I can get.
Because the rents I was looking at had gone up quite a bit on the HUD schedule. I don't know if it was 10%.
Let's see.
I mean, the HUD schedule, I just can't believe. I mean, that's horrible.
Okay, so. Here is what we got from home, so if you want to open up those documents.
Oh, thank you.
We'll look at them, that's fine. I could probably email them over too, huh?
So maybe Kristen is reaching out?
I would assume that Kristen is probably reaching
Okay.
out.
So is this something for us
This
to
was-
watch, not to take action on necessarily?
No, this
Okay.
isn't something that we would take action on. Like I said, we would be, in that case, we would be more of a recommendations as opposed to doing anything, because that is the board thing.
They're already getting.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
50% rent.
Okay, the next thing I
Yeah,
had.
like that. No answer.
I can send those to you from Oops, too.
Approved. I don't know what I did. I went somewhere,
Approved.
but I mean, they're getting the top of the schedule. I don't know what the people who are existing are paying, but
Yeah.
anyway.
And he
That's-
did,
that's
I mean,
for
he
your
provided some
other
numbers up
group.
on the, yeah, it's for the other group. It was just, like I said, I just wanted you to be aware that that didn't go quite the way that we thought it was
Yeah.
going to go. And that
But they
might be
can't
something that-
they can't kick it off. They can't just raise it anyway.
No,
Okay. All right.
no. The historical restriction, historical had reached out to get the information that Beth had. I'm wondering if we might want to offer to assist with that, which would partially be dependent on, we did lose our article at town meeting, but we did not lose it by much. And my thought is that we should bring it back, because I don't think anything is going to happen with that property. There's also, we had asked for an article on last fall town meeting to lower that threshold to 50%.
Mhm.
I will ask for that again on this, because what happened with that was,
Mhm.
she did not realize where it came from, and she asked Tim Wheeler in planning, said they didn't need it, so that's why it wasn't on last fall.
I see. So are you thinking about the special town meeting or just next May?
Special, I'm thinking special, we asked for the article to put the threshold down to 50%. I don't know if that will pass or not, but I think it's worth asking, because I don't think anybody's gonna get, I I think you could argue that nobody's gonna get to that 2/3 threshold on anything that is remotely, I mean, 59% is a pretty good percentage.
I mean, it's the majority.
It's well into the majority, so.
So is this
We
ask
lost because it was a two-thirds majority.
just for this article? Is that,
If we did this, it would be for transfer of property, it would bring the threshold down to, and I think it's easy enough to argue that we have a lot of properties in town. It wouldn't just be relevant for this one, that any project you want to do or any property that you want to offload, if getting to 2/3 is going to be difficult. So no matter what side of the fence you're on, I feel like this is something that you should want so that we can move forward on some of these properties. But like I said, that would be my recommended next step, would be to do that in fall. And then depending on how that went, or even if it's not, if that building is still sitting there, which I do feel like it would be.
It will, it seems likely.
We would come back in this next spring, again, and we'll, do more outreach and whatever we can.
I noticed at the meeting, we didn't have a FinCom recommendation, we didn't have other boards,
No, and we
Nobody
certainly-
from the select board stood up to say boo.
agreeing,
And I was not happy
agreeing with
about that.
anything.
Yeah,
So
since it was their idea.
It was their idea, right.
Yes,
But
it
it
does
was
feel
also-
a little bit floating out in the wind. there, but that's okay.
After
I
that
just
budget
think-
conversation.
for the next
But we can-
meeting, I
yes,
think those are
absolutely.
things that would
We
be
can-
helpful, because, that was made clear that there was no weight from other boards really behind it, I guess it seemed like. I was gonna say something else. And to Julie Lee's point, for a rec place or a senior center, maybe it should be offered directly to them to do something with a time frame, so that it appears that has been
Well-
substantially considered.
I can go back to the board, and I think one of the things that was offered to me was that there could be a group that gets together and talks about what to do with that.
And have sort of an external group make the recommendation.
or
We heard
just-
these things,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
But certainly from our standpoint, are we interested in continuing to pursue?
As long as Habitat has the patience, and I feel like they
They
do,
will-
they
they
will
will
wait
wait.
forever. Right.
They don't.
I think it is the best use of that. Certainly, the options that I heard at town meeting. It's tucked off in a nice, quiet neighborhood. There's no parking that might be necessary for instance, for a rec center, or there are a lot of pie in the sky ideas about what this could be from people who haven't actually seen it and don't have the income stream to even perk it, probably, right? So I feel like this is a good, even the neighbors on board with it now.
Who, Jeff?
And historical
And
is
historical
absolutely,
was, and
I
I
historical,
think they are.
and it would be much more challenging to maintain the historical envelope if it were to go
any
to
other
rec
direction.
or
Well,
right.
because it would have to be ADA compliant, and it's
And you
not.
can't maintain the envelope.
Certainly for a senior center, it would have to be ADA compliant, which it's not.
Not.
Well, look at the money Boylston is, with their, I forget the name
Yeah.
of the building up at their historic building. They want to do the senior center, and it's million.
Yeah, and this is a very small building too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
1,500 square feet, which is what I was saying. I don't know that people were internalizing
Like how-
1,500 square
right.
feet.
Should we look into the perk? I mean, for any use,
You need a perk.
you need a perk.
But
Whether it's this, that, the other, whether it's sold. So
Can
that money could come back. I mean, It's gotta be perked.
Can we spend
So
that money?
how long do we
if it's-
wait and how
if
long
it's
do we
not
fight?
ours?
Well, of course
We can,
Can we?
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
As an exploratory to prove that this site is
is viable,
Mm.
is
Mhm.
viable.
yeah.
I think we need more information there.
Okay. I mean, if we can do that.
I mean, if we're gonna put our eggs all in that basket,
Well,
so to
I mean,
speak.
there are some other
Yeah.
conversations to be had, right? About some other things we could do, but I don't know
Septic
about it
systems,
instead.
special septic systems can cost $100,000.
Not special systems can also cost. I mean, yeah.
I know the reason that I haven't been too concerned about like the Presby system or whatever is because Habitat was not even remotely concerned about that. Not even a little bit concerned about that. They had done something similar somewhere else. Now that doesn't mean we don't have to perk it and make sure that is a viable space, but they weren't even a little bit concerned about that.
How much would we be talking about financially to do
I
whatever
think-
testing?
I think the upper end would be, do you think 3,000 is like the high end? And part of the reason is they have to do more holes for a Presby system than they do for, that doesn't mean it's going to cost that much, but it means it could.
I mean, it gets
could be more.
narrowed down sometimes very quickly because of the setbacks. And so with well and septic, they have to be 100 feet apart. And not only from each other, from
But
the
also from
neighbors.
the neighbors.
So, I mean, we could do some basic homework and like, so you're not gonna be digging millions of perk holes anyway.
Okay.
So you're paying for a backhoe and you're paying for a soil evaluator. I don't even think it'd be $3,000, but
Okay.
Is the
Okay.
Presby system one that like overrides the 100 feet distance?
no.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because at our house it is, and like all kind of downtown, Woodward
it's-
Ave. There's less than 50 feet between our septic and our well.
There's probably many variances
Yeah.
on your system.
Right.
Mine too.
Yeah.
The library has a Presby system, I believe.
Probably that whole area.
Right.
And there was one on Walnut Street, so there is precedent. in
Well, that's me.
Berlin for that. So you have the there you go. So you
I'm
are
telling you,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like 12 variances on that system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well, I guess
stupid.
that would let us
And
know
it's a
whether
ton
we,
of money,
whether we
like-
wanted to continue to fight it or not.
Right.
So, I mean, and just in the back of my head, it's like,
Well, I think what they're looking at is they're still getting a building and a property for free, basically. And then if we were to chip in for the parking and the, and incentive money, I don't think, like I said, Habitat didn't even blink.
all right.
Mhm.
So,
But-
I mean, if they're not
But
that
let's,
concerned.
all in favor of, I will probably talk to the board about that too, because it's not ours.
It's not ours.
So before we take it
Well,
back.
yeah,
over-
you need permission,
Yeah,
but
so we'll get permission.
but in terms of the board,
They're- I think
anybody's
they will
gonna
be
need a
fine.
perk.
Yeah. So all in favor of doing the perk test? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have recommendations of who?
I mean, I would start local. I think you'd get the bigger bang for your buck.
Okay.
I would probably ask Paul Wheeler.
Okay. Can you
He's usually around.
maybe gather that particular
I'm-
vendor information?
I can, there are a couple others. I can ask the guy who did mine. He's
Okay.
not from the area, but he's not far, but he was excellent. So,
We
I
like
mean,
excellent.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I will ask around.
Okay.
I did ask a little bit, and what I was told was that with a change of use, which that building is,
It's not, though, it reverted back to residential. I have that per the building commissioner. It is
Okay.
residential. It was done with the other things long enough ago that it
Overlay or
reverts back to
whatever it
the
was.
initial use.
okay. So it's
Was what?
not a change of use.
It's not a change of use.
Okay. So then it wouldn't
Which makes life
necessarily
way
revert
easier.
to current day standards. There may be some
Ooh.
Flexibility there.
flexibility or grandfathering or something.
Which actually is yet another plus on the side of keeping this housing, because if it becomes not residential, that's a change in use.
Yes. So senior center, rec center,
Any
any
of
of those
that.
things which are already highly cost prohibitive and, you know,
Yeah. No, to get that up to snuff for any of those buildings, that's a major
Yeah,
investment,
yeah.
and the town can choose to do that, but I think they need to be aware that,
and I think that's a good
It's a
faith
major
show on our
investment.
part. You know, we realize that we may not get it, but the town would need to do it in any case. So,
okay.
and then to
Yeah.
apply the change of use to it
Okay.
makes further substance.
So I can make it clear, though, that we are still interested. I'm assuming if we're going ahead and perking it, we are still interested.
Yeah.
Okay. And we would want to be on whatever list was discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And should we let Carolyn know that? As well?
Carolyn
Reed?
Oh, she knows.
Okay. Okay. she has her spies everywhere, all right.
No, I just said that I would be bringing it back to you. But
Okay.
I didn't think that, I thought there was enough interest. That it wasn't like we lost by
Right, it wasn't like
a
20%,
huge, and I had
right.
multiple people come back up to me and talk to me later saying that,
That it was unfortunate that it was so late in the like,
Yeah.
it was after, so late in the meeting.
Well, that was the other thing. You went from having 400 people in the room to like 125 by the time you voted on this.
It seems that historically, these sorts of articles end up at the back of the pile. Is
Yeah,
there a
'cause you have to do the
way,
budget first.
is there a way, I mean, we could have been before the earthworks
Well,
bylaw.
one of the things, my first requested agenda item was a combination of the election stuff that we talked about, moving the elections, and also changing town meeting so that it starts earlier.
Really nice.
And
Wow, that makes
earlier.
great sense.
So, the entire board was in favor of doing this, so on the fall town meeting, it is a bylaw change, but on the fall town meeting, I believe we will have an article that suggests that we change that time, well, that we take out the time that is currently mandated in our bylaws.
Yes.
And gives us the option, so if it's particularly long, we start at, say, 6. And because most of the first articles, nobody cares about, they're all the pro forma articles anyways.
Mhm.
And then the other piece of that was, there was some concern because we couldn't get people sitting in their seats. And on the next one, my recommendation on that was that we go ahead and make it clear on the warrant that it doesn't matter if you're in your seat. If you want to guarantee that you're in your seat, you have to come early enough to be checked in, that the meeting will start at the start time. So, I think that,
Oh,
that will
oh,
also,
okay.
so
So
we'll
they
just
wait
make it.
for everyone to
make it-
settle and
Oh,
then they-
yeah, 45 minutes.
Huh.
We
Yeah,
started-
cocktail hour.
we
Right, because
started-
you didn't, right, you missed all that part by
started-
watching it
we
online.
started-
Well, I fast forwarded.
We started 45 minutes late.
Yeah.
In an
Well, I
already-
did see that because there was some
Yeah.
clicker issues.
There were,
also.
there were technical issues.
Yeah.
But that was only this long.
Right, that was 15 minutes. There was a full half an hour.
Okay, yeah, I fast forwarded that, but it was 45 minutes before
Yeah.
the end of the
So-
meeting.
And that happened at last meeting too, that it took a while to get started and.
So I think we need to just say,
Yeah.
Train
If-
people
if
that it's
you-
actually
Yeah.
going to start.
yeah.
But
It
also,
doesn't-
if
And open up, we're gonna have to open up earlier.
people are trying to get their kids fed and ready to go to playgroup or, the kid
Well-
care, right?
After
Yeah.
school program ends at 6. So how much earlier can you start?
Well, my guess is the
They'll
time
just-
would go 6:30 would be my guess, rather
Okay.
than we're starting at 7:30 now.
Currently, we're scheduled to start
Oh,
at
yeah.
7:30.
See, that's a
So
huge
even an
difference.
hour,
Yeah.
and then also I think cutting it off at 10,
No matter what.
no matter what. or at least having to vote at 10.
Having to
rather
vote
than
at 10 no matter- right,
rather
yeah,
than
right.
11.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that personally, having to get up and talk,
At
I
that
don't
time
know
of
how
night.
people string words together, because mine
Yeah.
don't, my
Yeah.
words do not word
Well,
very
if you
well
start
at
an
that
hour
time.
earlier, then moving that up an hour earlier makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
that's
hopefully that
Also-
will help with some of that issue in a lot of regards.
But
and
basically,
help people be
um,
able to stay and
Beth's
have.
question is, it has, our stuff is after budget when everybody leaves anyway, so.
Well, maybe if it's earlier, they won't have to leave though, because budget doesn't end. Budget didn't end until
I mean,
close to
and it's the
10.
school, it's the school budget,
Yeah.
right? That's the problem. And so at a December meeting, for instance,
Okay,
you know, we can watch and see, depending on what comes up in May, maybe it might make sense to just, I mean, we call it a special meeting, right? But we basically have it every year in the fall.
We
And
do.
so maybe we
Yeah.
can
I
think, we
think
can
it
look
would be
forward.
much better positioned without
You know,
budgetary stuff.
It's a
So
smaller.
you would rather do it in fall?
I think so.
Potentially.
I
mean,
actually-
we can see how, we can see, for instance, what the mood is as we talk about changing the percentages, and then what's gonna come up in,
My only hesitation
Yeah.
on the percentages is though, a majority's nice, 2/3 really shows support though, and I'm not sure I'm 100% across the board for that. Like I've seen it go circumstantially, I think, for votes, but personally,
how many other,
as much as
I
I
think
want
that-
this
Normally
project, I'm
normally
not
it's only
sure.
zoning bylaws.
the barn,
and that
the,
sort
the,
of thing.
what was it, the
Or
old
override,
fire
or-
barn? We've offloaded, correct, under, it got 2/3 to be no, that was, oh,
No.
no, that was about the
No.
roof,
There was a shed, there's a.
the money, but that was reallocating money to remove a building. It wasn't about selling a property or getting rid of a property. So this was actually the first of those properties that had been identified that actually came
Yeah.
up.
And there are multiple properties that potentially should be discussed about repurposing or
Like
moving
buildings
on.
or just open
Well,
land?
we have
Because
a
my
lot of,
concern gets
it's
to
not,
be.
it's not open land. We don't have,
So little.
we don't have open land, that isn't in as we know, isn't in conservation.
Okay.
What we do have is we have a lot of old buildings that have not been kept up that
Yeah.
and not repurposed and not
Right.
and they cost us money, like to bring them back into any sort of use would cost money, and then we have to pay insurance on them, we have to pay heating and all of the things.
Right.
So at some point you have to say, like, when you have the old highway barn and the old fire station and the this and that and the other thing, you know, why are we holding on to these, or what can we do to repurpose them? So, but yes, ours was the first in that list.
Like those buildings, could you put out like, and I'm sorry if this is an ignorant question, but you know, put it out there, RFP, somebody who wants to do something with this building. If not, then it gets disposed of.
I think you would want to probably have a purpose in mind first, of what you wanted to happen there.
Hmm.
You know, the town would want to decide. I mean, there are a couple options. You could sell them. You could.
What
you
about
could-
putting this building up for a bid with a minimum bid?
what building? The
Even the Legion Hall, for example. I mean, who's going to bid on it?
The next door neighbor. Well, maybe, but depending on what the minimum bid is and what the like, if there's a historic restriction on that already,
Exactly.
that's, you know, but
well,
If
that's-
it's
in
full of
order to put
restrictions.
stuff up for an RFP process, that would also have to, like, anything other than the town continuing to own those properties and
I mean-
pay for their upkeep currently has to
And
be
you could- you
approved.
could-
And part of that sale, couldn't you say affordable? I mean, and then nobody bids.
Well, that's,
so-
I mean, that's technically what
What
we're
we're
doing,
doing.
right?
yeah.
I mean,
If you were going to sell it,
we just get the transfer to us
I
first.
mean-
to
yeah,
manage
and
that
that's the
process.
stumbling
I don't
block.
I don't
so-
see that getting through town meeting either, frankly, because it is the old schoolhouse. We had done several things like from a, even talking about the historical restriction, if you're just gonna sell it, do you put the historical restriction on first, and then you're selling a non-conforming lot with a house that needs at least $200,000 worth of work to not fall down with,
Yeah.
all
With
of
with
these-
the
Right.
historic
that's-
No, you made a great
that's
point.
1,500
Shooting yourself
square
in
feet.
You
the foot
made a
there.
great point about
Um,
that. And, yeah,
So, yeah.
I mean,
But from our perspective, the housing trust perspective, and that's what I said that night too, is the housing trust, our role is to create affordable housing.
preserve,
So-
right?
And preserve it. So these other uses, that is not our problem.
Yeah.
That goes back over to the select board. It is not our problem
Who recommended
to come up
it?
with other uses for this. That is so not
Yeah.
not within the purview of
I
this
think this will
board.
pass.
So,
I think it could even get a 2/3
okay.
with more support from the other boards, like documented support.
I think it's actually more likely that this will pass than the changing everything from 2/3 to 50%.
You think so?
That's
I
what
do.
that's certainly at a May meeting.
Because I think we were already heading towards
And
2/3.
If we'd been an hour earlier and they didn't have to cut off debate,
we can have a FinCom recommendation, a
we can
Board of
have
Selectmen
we can have the
recommendation,
select
we
board
can have a
presenting
perk.
it rather than us
We might be
presenting
able
it.
to have
And the
Habitat
perk-
there.
The perk is
With
she
a-
left because she didn't think we were going to get to it.
Yep.
And she had another meeting early in the morning. She
Yeah.
was there.
Yep,
Yeah.
or, with a rendering, I don't know.
So you would do it in the fall?
not this fall. That's too
Okay.
soon.
That's what I
think.
thought. I thought we
I
would have
think.
time in
I
each
think.
meeting.
I think we want to let all these good ideas came up. Good ideas. People have ideas about what if we go a year and nobody said boo and we've put money in to move it towards affordability. That
I
feels
don't-
good from a.
I mean, I'm excited about it.
I think
I want to keep
could
it
be awesome.
moving.
Yeah.
I think there's a momentum behind it, even though it failed. I do believe there's a momentum. We have historical commission on. You said the neighbors now on board?
He wasn't. He didn't stand up to speak against it. He
didn't,
came
no.
to.
Yeah. I mean,
He came to. Oh, he came to the
Yeah.
the
The meeting that we have, the pre-meeting.
the pre-meeting, the select board pre-meeting, going through
Mhm.
the article
Mhm.
and
well, his concerns, he wants it preserved.
yeah,
And
the historical piece.
So-
I think we were convincing enough to say we're in alignment with that, and that is actually our role here, is to preserve it.
So I was gonna ask, as part of that, with the historical restriction, if we are still going to pursue it, would you like to offer to continue to help June with that? Because my general impression is that historical has no capacity.
I don't even actually. I guess historical would be the only people who have standing to put a historical restriction on that building. But again, we'd need select board approval for that type
Okay.
of work.
So maybe
I believe.
just,
But I
if
can-
there's any paperwork or any facilitation
I can
that you
reach out
could
to
do, maybe
June.
reach out to June and
Yeah.
maybe if we offer to do that and let them know that we will still be trying
Mhm.
and that as part of that, we can help with this piece because once again, similar to the perk, that should be done either way to protect
I
that
agree.
schoolhouse.
Yep.
I agree.
No matter what. And
Yep.
we can do that sort of under the auspices of,
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's the same as, change in use. It makes it less marketable, but that is a desire of the town. So, I mean, all those things just keep pointing it to our direction, in my opinion. But I think we have momentum. I'm not sure waiting, hiding from it.
Well, I'm
And I don't mean to
talking about
I get
it.
overexcited about things, so
But
you can keep me at bay, but
no. I mean,
I
I'm
actually-
I'm feeling, I'm, feeling the energy, and particularly, I mean, if we have the perk, and potentially, if we have the paperwork in front of the state or whatever to have them
So,
sign off on
It's
it,
May, June, July, August, September.
we can certainly get a perk done.
We should have I should be able to tell you soon when that's going to happen, because hopefully it will be earlier than last year.
December 9th or whatever it was.
My guess would be September, October timeframe, but
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Oh, early.
Oh, I was thinking December.
Okay, that's- yeah.
I don't think it would be December.
But also,
December is a terrible time for a town meeting.
that's what
It's
my other
terrible.
thought is who's paying attention?
Certainly, it is less attended.
Some.
There's not school
It
budget.
is.
Some,
Yeah.
but you know, a lot of
And
people get busy.
What
and-
else is coming up? Do we have any idea what else is going to be on the warrant? That will also drive. who
The only
attends.
one so far, I mean, we just finished the last one, so the only one I know is the bylaw change to make it earlier. Or make
Which?
the meeting earlier,
The time.
the time.
Or-
That's the
or-
only
or
one
sort of
on the
like-
list that
yeah.
I'm aware of so
Okay.
far. And
So no, I would.
I had suggested the 50%, but
I can see that it's worth it potentially to try again.
I mean, we can throw some darts.
well, I will see about getting us permission to perk
And to continue the historic
and to
deed
continue the
restriction.
historic deed restriction.
And I'm happy to help with that too.
I don't know. I don't really know what we have to do.
But I will also
So-
talk to some installers and soil evaluators and see what feedback we can get from them. Maybe even Board of Health too. And a little, fun research on where other people's systems are, because they'll need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can plan things like outreach meetings and getting the word out a little bit more, because, like I said, there were a lot of people who were really excited about this.
Okay.
Yeah. And if we
Um,
and potentially if we could be like Article number 1. Article number 4. Whatever. All right, fine. Maybe changing the time is important. But you're right. But
Normally
but
it's
yeah.
a lot shorter.
Right, right.
And normally your first articles are things like, we didn't pay this bill before.
Yeah, I
the end of the-"
know. I know.
So you have to do those
Yeah.
first.
No, but I think
But-
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Good. Either way, I just don't think we should let it go.
No, I think
So I am
Perfect.
cool
I
with
think you're right.
however we want to plan. I have no,
I mean, even if we stand up and we say these things are in the works, we are, still actively excited about this. We believe in this. By kind of letting it fade out a little, and then come back, it's like, oh, I'd forgotten about that.
Right.
But
Right.
I
We can
feel like
remind
there's
people.
a momentum. I was, I was glad to see the 59% because I really only heard one person speak in support of it. What was her name? From Village Lane. Kay Scott or Skoll or
Scoog. Kate
yes.
Scoog.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
and then it was 59% yes. So
Okay. So we can conceivably argue too that given how tired was, there
given
was
the
not
fact
a-
we had to close, like the vote was because people were
it wasn't
so
even
done.
a full discussion.
Right. Bring that back for a full discussion.
We
We've
can come
continued
with
to work
more
on it. We believe this is
information.
important.
And I still think people are undereducated about the affordable and why we need it, besides helping people live in our community, but what it means to them who maybe don't think about that every day.
Right, yeah.
To them, it's
Taxpayer.
lack of comprehensive permits and those types of
Yeah.
overdevelopment that clearly people aren't happy with. So
Yeah, and I would like to see the whole housing trust, even if I'm the only one who speaks to it or whatever, I'd like to see us all.
I would
Sort
have
of.
gone had I even been on this coast. Yes.
Yeah.
I would have gone, but
Okay.
I knew it.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
it was going to be at 5. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's 5. I'm like, it's never at 5. It's at 7.
Never at 5.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
dead,
I would
so-
happily go to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think we're good. We've got stuff. Yay. All right. We also did the passed on we did the first right of refusal, passed on that for 14 Spoford. My thought on first right of refusal is that we would never step in at that stage. We would only step in
Once
if it
time's out.
time's out. I'd like that to sort of be an official policy from us to the select board.
I
Because I don't
suppose it's
see a-
possible there could be a
Something that's already affordable.
yeah, unless there are, for instance, if there is a property that has a time limited deed restriction on it, if we were to buy it, we could change that and then put it back in.
Isn't it the only one Meadowbrook? Or
We believe so far. And
I
there
think
shouldn't be
that's
any
of
more.
ours,
Of
yeah,
ours,
and
yeah.
I
So I'm
think it's
I'm
sort of
working
a
on trying to come up
policy
with a
that
reason, yeah.
we're making them all in
In perpetuity now, yeah.
anyway.
So I certainly,
But-
it's really-
yes,
certainly
that
like
would
within
make
our
sense.
handbook of sort of general operating procedure, there would have to be a super huge reason to do it.
yeah.
So we don't lose that first right of refusal at this junction?
Well, I mean, we always have first right of refusal on any affordable as the town. But that
But
happens
at what
before it's
point?
even put up for sale.
So we don't even know that,
So first right of refusal is first right of refusal.
like,
It's-
first.
You get the option to buy it before anybody else gets that option. I don't think we would ever take that. Which is why I'm saying,
right.
I think our recommendation would always be bypass that first right of refusal.
Unless we had a pool, our own internal pool, or if we had a 40B qualified Berlin resident that would be competing against other folks for that unit in the general pool.
But
I don't know.
I'm
Berlin,
not sure.
Berlin is not a huge 40B.
Even if you had it though, I think you would still have to go through the appropriate steps as an affordable
Would we have to
home.
do?
I
Do we
don't
have to
think
do a
that's-
lottery in exactly the same way?
I feel like you do. I
Just
feel
figuring
like
out how to
that's-
ma- you know.
because we don't have like our own list at this point.
Well, right,
No.
right.
So we don't even manage that. So how, the timing of that
Just figuring out
might be a clear exception.
how to get a local person bumped to the front of the list,
Yep.
right? As opposed
No, I
to,
love that
if
mindset.
there's a way to do that. But
Yep.
but I mean, obviously they'd have to go through the same process.
Yep.
And be sitting there potentially waiting for a home. Right.
So we've given up our first right of refusal. It goes to bid then for affordable.
Well, it goes up for sale as an affordable unit.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll just be listed.
Every single affordable when it goes up for sale, we have first right of refusal that goes to the board. The board sort of rubber stamps it. Like I said, the question's been asked, whether we would like to recommend on that, and my thought was we would always say
We would always say,
Yeah.
go ahead.
right.
At what point? I know there's a time limit on the market that keeps it affordable. Is that true?
I think
That can expire. That's where I get concerned. Is that
yeah, but that would not have anything to do with this if that was the case. That would not have anything to do with first right of refusal because that would already have been bypassed.
Yep.
At that point, if we looked at something, if there was something that was potentially going to go off the rolls of affordable, then we would look at purchasing it to
Within
stop
the
that.
trust.
I mean, typically, like if you have a bank foreclosure,
yeah?
and after a certain period of time, they're just like, it has to be on the market, I believe, at least 90 days.
Yeah.
But generally, I mean, sometimes it's a year or more, right? And then they have to come to the town to ask for that 40B restriction to be removed.
They
and
still
at that point,
they still have to come to the town.
Yeah, at that point, we can be like,
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we get a second look.
Yeah.
I guess is my question before it expires.
Yep. We're chatty tonight.
It's all right.
We've got
Progress-
lots-
There's a lot of good stuff.
talk about.
It's been a while since we've met, and there's been a lot of change. So
Progress
yeah.
is good. Go.
Okay.
Your friend, back to
Jen.
a vacant position, is she
Yeah.
at all interested?
I mean, yes, I think I was going to circle back around with her. There may just be too much. She may have too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
For it to, like, the timing is hard because she works in Carlisle, and so
Yeah.
getting back
Yeah.
for our meetings is potentially a
Okay.
problem. But I will follow up with her and see what her statement is now that her trustee of trust position will be going away.
And I will also reach out
And
to
is there
the
a
person
s-
I have in mind too.
Oh,
so-
okay.
Yeah, so, I mean-
Good,
Yeah.
nice.
And like I said, I reached out to one, which would have been perfect because he had skills that would have been helpful. But he
Lawyers,
said
real
no.
estate agents.
Real estate agent.
Yeah, we
I
declined.
would love to have a real estate agent on here. I think that would be
Well,
really
I
helpful.
am.
So
What?
you're actually, I thought you
You're a
were
licensed real estate
manager.
agent?
So you're a real estate agent too?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Multi-talented. Awesome.
but I don't
But you don't.
list and sell.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So.
So I don't have that same knowledge, in other words.
Of a current, like somebody
Yeah,
who's currently in the
I'm not
market.
in on the playing field.
Are we ready for executive session, which means we're going to have to boot Frank out? We have an executive session tonight, so.
Have fun.
So I'm gonna do. Brittany asked me to do this.
And will she tell us?
How do you
So
know
we
if
need to do
it's-
roll call. We're going to go into executive session now. So
Do we actually
roll call
do we
vote.
shut the door? What are the?
You can.
Oh, it sounds
Um,
good.
So I don't remember exactly, but it's a roll call. So step through and basically each person says we're going into executive session. So Wysocki, aye.
Hendrick, I.
Kukla, I.
Stores eye.